Welcome to Standard Chartered India Money Insights, a podcast series that brings you topical insights and local perspectives on India's markets from the experts.
Hello everyone, my name is Ravi. Welcome to another edition of our weekly podcast. Global equities trended volatile on rising geopolitical tensions. After gaining earlier in the week on falling inflation and higher non-farm payrolls data, most major US equity indices came under pressure on Friday on escalating Israel-Iran conflict. The Dow Jones, S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite fell around 0.6 to 1.3% over the week. Asian equities trended mixed, with Taiwan and Korea rising about 3% and Hong Kong following suit with about 2% gain, while Singapore, India and Thailand fell around 1% to 3%. For the week, the emerging markets Asia ex-China saw strong inflows of about $4.6 billion, mostly concentrated in Taiwan and Korea. China's CPI inflation remained flat, while producer price inflation declined further. Exports growth moderated due to continued weakness in US pound shipments. Back home, Indian equities gave up gains over the previous week. In line with global peers, the Nifty index came under pressure later in the week amid rising geopolitical tensions, higher crude oil prices, and foreign investor outflows, the Nifty index closing the week down 1%. Broader markets performance was mixed, with the small cap index falling 1.1%, while the mid cap index fell 1.3%. Among sectors, global defensive sectors like the IT and pharma were the only sectors to end in green, with gains of over 1.4% to 3.1%, while most other sectors ended in the red, while FMCG and realty lagged the most, with cuts of over 2.3% during the week. The Indian fixed income market came under pressure, with government bond yields rising across the curve, mostly driven by profit booking after the RBI surprised markets by switching to a neutral policy stance, signaling limited scope of policy easing going forward. The yield curve flattened, with the 10-year government bond yields rising 7 basis points to 6.36%, while the 3-year and 5-year government bond yields rose 18 basis points and 26 basis points respectively. Brent crude oil rallied 7% on Friday to settle at $74.2 per barrel. With this, Brent crude oil recorded a 12% week-on-week gains after an Israeli strike on Iran. Investors remain wary of potential retaliations that could disrupt supply given Iran's strategic control near Strait of Hormuz. The INR traded range-bound for most of the week before declining 0.5% on Friday to 86.3 per dollar amid escalating geopolitical tensions, higher crude oil prices, and foreign investor outflows from domestic equities. Coming to the macro updates for the week, the first was on India's consumer price inflation, which eased to 2.8% year-on-year in the month of May of 2025, down from 3.16% recorded in the previous months and below market expectations of 3%. This marked the lowest reading since February of 2019. Food inflation, which accounts for nearly half of the CPI basket, fell sharply to 0.99%, the lowest since October of 2021, driven by easing price pressures for pulses and products, vegetables, fruits, cereals, sugar and confectionery. On the other hand, inflation remained steady or edged higher in categories such as housing, education, health and transport and communications. The second data was on India's wholesale price inflation, which eased to 0.39% year-on-year in the month of May 2025, lower than the market expectations of 0.8% and down from 0.85% year-on-year inflation recorded in the month of April. This also marked the lowest reading since March of 2024 as price growth moderated for food, hitting a 19-month low due to a sharp 21.6% drop in vegetable costs. Manufacturing inflation also slowed to 2% from 2.6% in the previous month, the lowest level since November of 2024, reflecting softer increases in costs for most subcomponents, mainly paper and paper products, food products, and rubber and plastic products. Additionally, fuel and power prices continue to decline, driven by lower costs for petrol, high-speed diesel. Meanwhile, prices of primary articles dropped by 2% following a 1.4% fall in April. On a monthly basis, though, wholesale prices edged up by 0.06% after a 0.2% decrease recorded in the previous month. At this point, I'll take a pause and thank you as always for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe. Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to Standard Chartered India Money Insights. Stay tuned for the latest updates and market trends by subscribing to our podcast. For more information, Reach out to your Standard Chartered relationship manager or visit www.se.com/in.